Ahoy there. Today on the Red Sea, when I was 7, I called 911 on my friend's mom who was beating my friend bloody with a switch. What did you get in massive trouble for as a child, only to commend yourself for as an adult? When I was in the 1st grade I tackled the malarkey out of a 5th grader who was beating up my friend Matt on the playground at an early bird before school program. When I say tackled I mean I blindsided this kid at full speed on tarmac. He got all kind of messed up on impact. I got suspended for a week. As a 1st grader, when my dad came for a meeting with the school principal, Dr. Mack, she asked me if I would do it again. If I had said no I would have been allowed back to school earlier than allotted. I proudly said yes I would do it again because I was defending my friend. I got a 2nd week suspension. To this day, I'm 29. My dad still talks about how 1st graders do not just go around beating up 5th graders, and that he would always be fine with me getting suspended for standing up for what I believe in. In high school my girlfriend and I were in the process of breaking up. We were chatting on AIM and she wrote, "I'm so depressed. Goodbyes that night tried. I'm going to meet God." I called 911 and said she was trying to kill herself. The cops came and all that craziness and her parents never forgave me and forbade me from seeing her again. I still feel like I did the right thing. When my parents and I first moved to our 2nd house in Idaho, I was 9. I saw that my neighbor had a bunch of ponies on his land and I loved horses more than anything. Had been riding since I was 3. Been around them all my life. etc. etc. Anyways, went up to the fence to entice them to come up and wondered. He had a halter on, but it had been on so long it had cut into his face and there was dried blood and oh yeah the skin was growing back around the ducking halter. Noticed some of the other ponies had this problem too. So I went home and called the animal shelter number. We did foster care for feral cats, so my mom had the number and told them all about it. My family got in huge trouble in the community because while the shelter people were enraged and removed all the horses, our community was definitely of the opinion of not getting in other people's business. What people do with their animals is their business. They ended up bullying us until we ended up moving 3 years later. I regret nothing. I called the cops on my stepdad for beating my mom senselessly in the hallway. He was coming after me while I was dialing, and after I got off the phone, my mom came in the kitchen with me and started screaming and yelling at me like that was the wrong thing to do. As all of this was happening, she was bleeding and was bruised up all over. I got in so much trouble for it. I did not know what else to do. My brother and sisters were crying and holding each other in the back room. The cops did not really do anything besides ask him to leave, which he did. When I was 14, I called 911 on my father because he was bashing my head into a wall. I had put up with abuse from him since I was 4 years old, and I was not wanting to deal with it any longer. The police showed up, told me that I was a problem child, to never call them again, and when they left, my father continued to beat me. I left the next day, never to return. I called around until I could get a number for CPS and told them everything. My family no longer speaks to me. They blame me for breaking up the family and told me that there are some things we just do not talk to outsiders about. Apparently, abuse is one of those things. I felt insanely guilty about it for a long time. But now, I commend myself for stepping up and finally stepping away from the bull malarkey when nobody else would pull me out of it. My best friend always got in trouble for eating in grade school while the teacher was talking. The teacher really did not like him and would often just yell, "James, pay attention," even if he was staring at her. She did this so much that I began to get defensive and angry. One time when James was just looking down for a second, she gave him detention for eating. I stood up and yelled at her, told her he was not reading and that she was being a bully. I got detention too, but James' parents loved me so much after that. When I was 15, my friend told me that she took a lot of pills because her ex-boyfriend told her to kill herself. I called 911 and printed out the conversation from AIM and showed it to the police. The ambulance went to her house and they said she seemed fine. She had to get her stomach pumped and then do a few months of counseling. Her mom talked to me a few days later and said that I should not have called and that my friend was fine. It was not the first time that my friend had done it, so at the time, I thought I was doing the right thing. When I was 10, my mom showed up at my daycare wasted. The staff was just going to let me and my younger sisters go with her. I threw a malarkey fit and refused to get in the car. I snatched my mom's keys and ran around the building to the playground. I buried them under the slide. The daycare staff was forced to call my grandmother to come get us. Later that night, my mom spanked me so hard I had to sleep on my stomach. I was grounded for 2 weeks. 22 years later, I'm still pissed at her for that. What does your mom think about that day now? She has mental problems. She pretends that it never happened. She also denies getting wasted and forgetting to pick me up at karate when I was 12. I walked 3 miles in the snow at night, in sandals and my karate gi. In January in Colorado. She showed up at home 3 hours later, puked in the hallway and passed out. She is different now, but refuses to acknowledge what a malarkey parent she was. When I was a teenager, I brought a couple of drunk kids to my house while my parents were gone, so they would not drive home while drunk. My parents came home, and I got in trouble for having drunk boys in the house. I still think I did the right thing. When I was about 8, I was walking alone down a road toward a friend's house on a hot summer's day, eating a popsicle. The neighborhood bully was in his front yard for some reason, which I needed to walk right past to get to my friend's house. As I walked past his house, he began to call names at me, etc., trying to provoke a response from me. This was typical, and I had anticipated it. I walked straight up to him without saying a word, and hit him in the nose with the popsicle I had been planning on eating as hard as I could. He cupped his bleeding nose, screamed like a little girl, and ran inside. My frozen treat was cracked and ruined. My parents later found out about it. I actually did not really get into too much trouble. My mother was angry, but my father was pretty proud, and I think he swayed her a little. I ate what remained of the popsicle after. It was still pretty good. To sum it up, gave neighborhood bully a bloody nose using a frozen treat. My high school liked to brag about how 70% or so of all students who took AP tests got a 4 or a 5. My friend was doing poorly in our French class, and the school was threatening to not let her take the AP test held at our school, even though she was doing 3-level work, which would have been passing, and she would have been quite happy with. So the school kept up the high percentage by only allowing the top students in the class to take the AP tests. I told her, in front of the teacher, that she could get around this by taking the test at another school. Then the administration held a special meeting discussing the problem with the girls of the senior class having too much spunk. Same thing happened with my AP German exam. I got many threats asking me not to take it. Things like a bad recommendation being sent to my college, etc. I got a 4 and most of the privileged class got 3s. I was living in rural Canada going to boarding school when I was in high school. It was an international school and my roommate was Iranian. We were at a McDonald's and some drunk guys come in and start yelling racial slurs at my roommate. We talked it out with the guys, and everything was cool. Then all of a sudden some random drunk just punches my roommate in the face. The place breaks out in a fight like something out of a movie. We were outnumbered at least 3 to 1. A bunch of guys were on top of my roommate on the ground. I picked up a high chair and beat the guys with it as hard as I could. We ended up having to go to court, and eventually we were all exonerated, and the racists got probation. To sum it up, I beat a couple of guys in McDonald's with a high chair. When I was 4, in a preschool with other kids my age, there was a bully who would take my toys every day. I'd be playing with a truck. He'd take the truck. I'd be playing with a robot. He'd take the robot. This went on for 2 or 3 weeks. And eventually I told my parents and my grandma. My parents gave me the just ignore him and hell go away speech. But my grandma took a slightly different approach. She told me to give the kid a knuckle sandwich. The next day, the kid tried to take my dinosaur, but I decided to take my grandma's advice. I pushed the kid down and told him to get away from me. The preschool called my parents and told them what I had done. They set up a meeting and my grandma came. She was smiling the entire time. The kid never messed with me again. When I was in 8th grade I went to use the restroom and there was this chubby girl applying eyeliner on her eyes. A few girls came in and mocked her and made fun of her weight. I was listening to all of it while I was peeing. I came out to wash my hands and they were still laughing. And I looked at the 3 girls and loudly said, "You guys are morons. At least she does not give blowjobs in the staircase." They were known to do these kind of things. As I left, the chubby girl left too and flat out said to me as she held back tears, "You do not need to say all that. I can stand up for myself." At that time I felt bad defending her, but now that I think about it, I think I did the right thing. In grade 8 one of my good friend's mom was struggling with cancer. It was pretty bad, and he obviously was not taking it well. What 13-year-old would? Anyway, one day after school we were hanging around with a few girls on the front lawn and this kid, an absolutely horrible kid, comes up to us. I cannot remember what led up to it, but this kid says to my friend, you should go home and duck your mom one more time before she dies. I completely snapped. I beat the crap out of him. This malarkey kid was smaller than me, so it was not fair, but I did not care. I punched him in the face and knocked him on the ground and let my friend, who was pretty puny, kick him while he was down there. I'm not sure I have ever been so angry in my life. I cannot remember all the details, but I know we did not. Well, I did not. I was the biggest one, so I was doing most of the damage. Do anything too serious as he did not have any broken bones or missing teeth. His parents obviously got in touch with the school and there was a big meeting between my friend, the malarkey kid, me, all the parents, the principal, vice principal, and the school resource officer. We had to apologize for beating him up, and I think he gave a half-assed apology. It was pretty awesome though, as it was clear the principal and VP were not all that angry at me and were clearly going through some motions to keep his parents happy. To sum it up, I beat up a kid that told my small friend to duck his mom before she died of cancer. When I was probably 10 or 11, I was at a younger cousin's birthday party. One of their neighbor's kids was there, probably around 7, and was really annoying. At one point he bit me on the arm and I just stood up and backhanded him across the face, hard enough to send him to the ground crying. I got put in timeout or some malarkey and pretty much had to sit by myself for the rest of the party. Later on I found out this kid was known to be a biter and stopped doing it after that. Moved to a new school and stood up for the kids being bullied. I got in a fist fight with a kid who was beating the malarkey out of mentally handicapped kid. We both were sent to the office. He got a 10-day suspension and 13 stitches. I got 17 stitches, but no suspension, and commended on it later on in life by the principal after learning the actual reasoning. For reference, I was brought up in a foster care household and have adopted siblings who are also slow. I do not deal well with the abuse that the mentally handicapped receive. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. There is no more after this. Click the thumbs up button since you liked the video because you made it until the end. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this, so either go do something else or watch another video. That's it. I do not know why you are still here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? Maybe someday. Who says one does not exist somewhere already? It does not. Or does it?